Hello, YouTubers. It's me again. It's been a while since I've been on here, but I actually have some good news as to why I haven't been on here, but I'll get to that in another video. Anyway, I want to stress the importance of being tenacious or persevering when applying for jobs. I've noticed that a lot of people that whine about not having any opportunities, not getting enough callbacks, or anyone responding to them, they don't apply to enough jobs. You can't apply to 3 jobs, and then a month later be like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard back from anyone, it's so hard to find a job. No, you have to be tenacious. Before I got my first full time role, I applied to 300 jobs. Now, things are a little bit better now than it was then because when I graduated, it was right at the peak or right as the recession like really began to take full effect and companies started freezing the hiring process and laying off a lot of people. But anyway, the point is that I could have said after the 100th application, oh God, I've applied to 100 places, nothing's ever going to work out for me. But it was like, no, I'll apply to 10,000 if I have to, because even from a statistical standpoint, something has to work out. Even if it's just an interview, the more you apply, obviously, the more chances you have. And also, you also have to look at if you're applying for the right kinds of jobs. Usually, you can find in the job description what they're looking for. And a lot of these companies now, they have filters. They have to have filters because so much people are applying to the same jobs. But anyway, they use SEO or search engine optimization, and basically they look for certain keywords in your resume. And if your resume does not have certain keywords, guess what? You will not be hearing back from the company. They can't sit down and read every single resume. It's absolutely impossible. And obviously, the ratio of people looking for jobs to actual jobs are quite low. So of course, they have to come up with a system to make it easier on their part. So if you see that they're looking for certain things, then you need to figure out, okay, first of all, do I even have these skills to begin with? And second of all, if I have these skills, am I matching them on my resume verbatim? Because if you're not, then forget it. If the job says you must be really good at Excel, really good at analyzing numbers and doing financial models, if you do not have financial modeling, if you do not have Excel on your resume, guess what? Your resume is thrown out and they move on to the next person. So, it seems like a really practical thing, but I think a lot of people overcomplicate, certain things. So, if you look at a job and you see that they're looking for certain things and you have those skills, look at your resume. If you haven't put those skills on your resume, then maybe it's time to change your resume and put those skills that they're looking for, so that when the computer, it's not even a person, but when the computer filters all these resumes and they see that your resume has those keywords, they're going to look at it and then you'll get shortlisted. And perhaps you'll move to the next level, perhaps you won't. But even if you don't, so what? You have to just keep it moving, keep it going. At some point of time, there must be a place that's going to take you. There must be some kind of experience um, that's going to take you. And one of the things that I've learned throughout each recession is the importance of interning. A lot of people underestimate the impact or the power of interning. When things were really, really tight. Granted, I was fortunate enough to have family in New York, and of course, working in fashion, New York is like the epicenter of fashion, so I was able to stay with them. But, I interned because you know what? I wanted to remain relevant, and that's very critical. If there's a way you can stay with your parents, stay with a relative, you know, even if you intern 2 days a week and work, 4 or 5 days a week, it depends on where you live, the cost of living, etc., etc. Do that, because the more you work in the industry, right, the more you own the skills. And once you own the skills, then these companies are going to say, okay, this person has such and such a skill. Yeah, they might not have actual work experience, but they intern. My first job, the reason why I got short, I didn't even apply to my first job, to be honest with you. I signed up for a recruitment agency, which I'd recommend you do. Most definitely sign up to as many recruitment agencies as possible. But anyway, I applied for one job. I didn't get the job. And so my agency said, okay, is it okay for me to submit your resume through to another company? I said, sure, why not? And then when I went on the interview for that company, they said, okay, I see that you've interned, but you've done A, B, C, and D. This job requires A, B, C, and D. And then I interviewed the Tuesday, and by like the Wednesday, they called me back and say, okay, guess what? You have a job coming on Monday. And it's very critical. I've also, after that experience, interviewed for other internships, and it's a small world. There's been places that said, oh, you worked for this place or you interned for this place. I have a relationship with that place, and it kind of puts you, a step ahead. So don't underestimate the power of an internship. You know what I mean? Just stay relevant. Anything that you can do, even if it's just one day out of the week. And also, I mean, an internship is also a chance to prove yourself, to prove your worth. Now, granted, there are some unethical companies that will, work you like a slave and never even offer you the option, but you have to be really smart about it and weigh the pros and cons. Maybe you realize that it's highly unlikely that you'll get hired by the company, but perhaps you'll own some skills, or maybe you'll be interacting with major players in the industry you're trying to get into, and that's a great way to kind of prove yourself. And if you work really hard and you have a good work ethic and you're very professional, I mean, I think people will take notice of that. And you never know. I mean, you might be making coffee for someone and bump into the CEO of this company or that company. I remember when I was interning for a buying agency, I ran into Ralph Lauren on the elevator, and it was so cool. It was so exciting. He was so nice. I really wasn't expecting him to be so, down to earth, but he was really nice. So I mean, you just don't know. The world is vast, but it's also small. That's one of the things that I'm learning. I mean, I've met people, you know, on the bus. I've met people on the airplane that work in fashion, and you would never have known that they worked in fashion, but that's just the way it is. Success comes when opportunity meets preparation. So if you're always prepared and you always have in the back of your mind, you know what, there's always going to be some form of opportunity in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to work with whatever I have and see where I can take it from there. You'd be surprised. I mean, once I changed my perspective, it just seems like so many doors open, and then I realized, there's so many ways to get to that endpoint, that destination. And once I got rid of the confinement mentally, it opened my eyes, and then I could figure out different ways to get to that ultimate opportunity. And I began to network with different people, and things just kind of took off from there. So yeah, tenacity is key. Don't just apply to 5 jobs and be like, woe is me. I applied to 5 jobs, I didn't get it. No, apply to 10,000 jobs if you have to apply to 10,000 jobs. Do whatever you have to do. I mean, attend networking events too. Some people are so lazy. Don't just sit at your computer, clicking all day or applying all day at your computer. Go to the fairs, the job fairs. Go to the companies themselves. Find out who works in the department that you want to work with, and see if you can get an interview on the spot. See if you can talk to them on the spot. The worst that can happen is that they say no. There's meetup.com, there's linkedin.com. Meetup.com is one of the websites I would highly recommend because they have different groups based on your interest. So all you have to do is, join a group, and they have events, and you just network with people. Now's not the time to be introverted. You need to be extroverted, because if you're not out there getting it, someone else is, and it's as simple as that. You know what I mean? So you can sit down and whine all day about not having a job, not having opportunities, what was me, or you can be aggressive and proactive, and that's what's going to yield results.